Welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast, a show that will empower you to finally show up for yourself. It's time to stop faking fine.
Lisa Fischer, welcome to the Stop Faking Fine podcast.
Thank you.
So many things that we can chat about, from you learning the key to managing your menopause, which I cannot wait to dive into that conversation.
Yep.
To how in the world did you end up as a journalist and a TV personality, right?
That's something.
I'm love your story.
Very nosy. I'm very inquisitive, very nosy. I was always the one in like fifth grade asking questions, and they'd go, "Stop asking questions." I'd go, "But I have to find out. I have to know what's going on." I'm in the middle of everything. We used to say that, why put an ad in the newspaper? Just tell Lisa Fischer. I'll get the word out. But I'm like Elaine on Seinfeld. If it needs to go in the vault, it will go in the vault. Just don't give me any schnapps.
That is amazing. Don't give you any schnapps. Well, let's dive on in. So you learned how to fake fine really young in life. How did your childhood shape you in that way?
I have a heartbreaking story, but it has triumph in the end, and it's everyone with the pain to purpose. Mm-hmm. That's really our responsibility of when we've learned something and you've done that well, is then imparting the knowledge. Not that it would help, not it would prevent someone from suffering, because suffering is inevitable. Right. But it equips people that you're not alone. So my story is that I was born in Newark, New Jersey, to a beautiful red-haired Gentile mother. I say that because I have red-haired children, red-haired grandchildren. I love redheads. And my father—
That's amazing, because you did not inherit that gene, right?
No, my hair is black and my skin is fair and my eyes are green. So I've got these beautiful redheads. My mother was the first Miss New Orleans, in fact.
Well, look at that.
I know. And her first cousin was Van Cliburn, who is the greatest pianist of the 20th century. Anyone Google that when you get a minute. Van Cliburn, Cliburn.
That's
so
amazing.
My mother was Jean Cliburn, and she married a nice little Yiddish boy from New Jersey, and his parents had come over on the Mayflower. No, they came over and came to the U.S. from Russia, what was actually then probably now we call the Republic of Georgia and the Ukraine. So that's where that black hair, fair skin, that's what a lot of those Jews look like.
I love it.
And they were a match made in, I would say addiction heaven.
Okay.
There's a phrase we used to say was game recognizes game. Okay. Addicts recognize addicts.
Yeah.
Okay. And they had a great time until they didn't. And so they divorced when I was very, very young. My mother probably had before I was even born. So my mother had a child at 20 and then had me at 36. So she had a 16-year gap.
Okay.
And she had 5 miscarriages during that time. And they had busted up a bunch. He would go with somebody else. In fact, he didn't marry another woman. He had an affair with another woman who was a redhead.
Oh, gosh. He had a type.
Isn't that funny?
We all do. We all
do. Isn't that funny? So they had finally busted up after I was born, and I have this half sister in Manhattan, in fact, who is a year older than I am, because that was the out of wedlock relationship he had.
Yeah.
And then my parents finally divorced, and she and I left Jersey. So we lived in Newark and lived about 10 minutes away in Roselle Park, 20 minutes away probably. And she decided, because this is what addicts do. They think, if I have a change of scenery, things will be different. Things will be different in my next stop.
Yeah.
Right. So we left, we were on welfare, public assistance, because her first husband was my father. Her second husband was a pill popping. And my father was a drunk, and the next one was a pill popper. But he made a ton of money. And that's who I thought was my father ever, until he killed himself.
Oh, gosh.
And I came home from school one day.
On an overdose or what?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lisa.
He was bipolar, and that was before lithium. Lithium has done a lot. So I think managing your mental health is crucial to you and your future and your family. Yeah. Then there wasn't people medicate. Well, in fact, many addicts will have some type of component of mental illness. And I understand that. I mean, and they're medicating.
Yeah.
So I came home from school one day and his last name was Cancer, Cansor.
Oh my gosh.
It was Cantor, but he didn't like the anti-Semitism in Jersey, New Jersey and New York. Okay. So he changed it to Cancer so no one would know he was a Jew. Well, that wasn't a great public relations move. So
that was like far before cancer was a thing.
Yeah,
right?
It was. I mean, people had it, and it was spelled differently, but still. And now, it is. It's like if your last name was COVID.
Yeah, nobody wants that,
right? I mean, Corona beer had a hard time during 2020 after that because it was called the coronavirus for so long. So then people started going. I think the people at whoever brews that says, let's go to just calling it COVID.
Yeah.
So my last name was COVID at that time. So it was Cancer. I came home from school. My mother's sitting down in my little apartment there in Roselle Park, New Jersey. And so I got good news and bad news. The good news is your last name's not Cancer. It's really Kaplan. Frank Kaplan's your father. And I go, the one I look like? Yes. I'm not good with deductive reasoning. And then the next thing she said was,
how old are you at this point?
10. I was 10 years old.
No one is good at deductive reasoning at 10. So
Thank you.
So let's like
the one I look like.
Right. Yeah. So you look like your dad. You know who this man is.
Yeah. Right.
But he's not part of your life.
No.
And she says, I have good news and bad news. The bad news is
Marvin, the man you thought was your father, he's dead.
Lisa.
I'm not making this up.
You're 10 years old sitting in this apartment.
Mm-hmm. She had a cigarette, I'm sure, in her hand and a drink. All the time.
Where do you go? Where do you go from there?
Yeah. Well, this was after, so Frank Kaplan, the one who was my biological father, I called him after that and said, Daddy, it's me. And he was like, hey kid, I'm busy. What? He had no interest. I mean, he didn't want to be a father. He was fine with the situation. He's probably mad at my mother.
For telling him.
For telling him.
For telling you.
Yeah, for telling me. Yeah. So I was about 10. And before this happened, even, I was sexually abused by a neighbor there at my apartment complex. And because my mother was handicapped from being an addict, though she adored me, I didn't know there was another child ever born. I thought I was in the Smithsonian.
Yeah.
She told me I was funny, beautiful, and I'd go on. What else?
Yeah.
I believed her. I didn't know that parents said that to kids, that all parents say that.
Right.
It's what you say. But I had nothing to compare it to. And so, but because of her, I was saying she was handicapped. She really didn't parent me the way I needed to be parented. And that was, no one checked on me. Yeah. So when this boy was sexually abusing me and I came home and told my mother, she almost laughed about it and told one of her suitors. She had suitors in and out all the time. A man would spend the night. And it's probably, there was probably some type of trade of us. That's probably how we had cash the next day. So she and I can't say that definitively, but now because I do have some deductive reasoning and I am a critical thinker in things. Yeah, it took a minute.
It took a minute, but you do have some very good deductive reasoning at this point in your journalism career, right?
That's right.
But you are going at Mach 10 through this story, and it's just my eyes are wide open, all of the things. So, at what point did this pivot?
So, that's when she said, when I was about 11 or so, she said, let's move to New Orleans, where she was from. Remember, she was the first junior Miss New Orleans is what I think her title was. Let's move to New Orleans. That's where her family was. Let me get my feet back on the ground. She said, I'll get a job. Well, she's never had a job because, again, addicts aren't reliable.
Yeah.
So she went
But she was always there for you physically.
Yes, she didn't leave. She never left the apartment. She didn't do anything. She just sat in there and smoked and drank all day. And because I am the definition of extrovert. And so extrovert doesn't
we're surprised, Lisa. Are you sure? Where on this
9 minutes and 40 seconds in, you people are going, no way. But I'm
shocked by this information.
In defense of our introvert friends, some introverts are chatty.
Yeah.
Not all, I mean, all extroverts are probably chatty. I mean, but, my desire of having an audience all the time. I'm people oriented all the time.
You were born
yes,
with this gift.
Yes. I would leave my apartment. And Roselle Park is like Newark. I mean, it's kind of the armpit of America, but it's not that bad. But it is kind of a melting pot.
For anyone listening, it's not that bad.
That's right.
We love you too. We love you. We love you too.
I love you. But it was a melting pot of all these different cultures, and I just love that. I'm still attracted to that. You know, I love people so much. So we moved to New Orleans, and
but you would leave the apartment. Hold on one second. You would leave the apartment and go to school and ask all of your questions. And they would say, Lisa, stop asking questions. You do not need to know all of that. So you were self-empowered and dedicated to say, I'm going to school. I'm registered. I'm going to take these classes. I'm going to come home. And
you have to do that when somebody's an addict. Who's going to be the parent? She probably did the work on the front end, but I took care of everything else. Extremely responsible. And same thing happened. Moved to New Orleans. She didn't keep that job very long.
Yeah.
And I came home from school 3 weeks after my 12th birthday, and she was dead. She had overdosed and died.
And you found her?
Mm-hmm. My cousin and I. My cousin was suspicious that my mother hadn't answered the phone that day.
Okay.
And she said, see, I was 12. I was the one that took care of us. She said, I've been calling your mother all day. Why didn't she answer the phone? My mother had broken her toe and had been taking painkillers, not great for an
addict. Right.
And she probably drank too much wine, took too much painkillers, and that killed her.
Oh my gosh.
And I will say this, in response to redheads are very sensitive to different medicines and pharmaceuticals.
Okay.
So that may have had some component, or she just overdosed. But when I came home, my cousin was saying, but I've been ringing the doorbell. She didn't hear me. I said, well, she broke her toe. She goes, what does that mean? I said, well, I closed her bedroom door so she wouldn't be bothered by the doorbell. She goes, well, I've been calling. I said, I unplugged the phone.
You did?
I was the adult.
You took care of it for her at age 12.
12. I made my lunch that day. I saw that she was sleeping in her bed. I often slept with her, but I didn't that night. Okay. And I saw she was sleeping in her bed because I checked on her before I went to school. Because again, I was the adult.
You were the adult.
And so when I came home, my cousin was saying, but this, and this, this isn't making sense. And I took care of these things.
Yeah.
And it was a Tuesday afternoon in January, which is hot in New Orleans. It's hot year round. And I had no place to go. I called my father to tell him. He said, I'm sorry.
That's it.
And I called my brother who's in New York City, and he just said same thing. Sorry, sucks to be you. And so
at age 12,
yeah, they were just saying, I can't help you. I mean, I had no place to go that night.
That's where my brain is going. My brain is spiraling, and I'm like, Lisa, so where did you go from there? The
cousin who was in New Orleans, who has an interesting story too, but I stayed at her house. That was Tuesday and Wednesday night. I remember it so well. Then on Thursday, I had some cousins in Arkansas drive from their town in Southeast Arkansas to New Orleans. And they brought me to Arkansas to give me a place to stay for a few days. And I never left. They ended up adopting me. They were first cousins. They ended up adopting me.
But I love that.
I know.
I
they were also addicts, though.
They were not. They what? So then the silver lining of the story is that you're in another home, another loving home.
I was rescued. I'd never lived in a home because we always lived in apartments. I never had a mother and father. I never had anyone make my lunch for school, so I was attended to.
Yeah.
They just had some broken ways themselves. And
I can't believe the number of addict homes.
All of them.
You went from one to the next.
And ask me how much I drink.
Zero. You have zero tolerance for it. How many pills are you popping on a daily basis?
Nothing.
Zero.
Nothing. Isn't that crazy?
So you got into journalism because Lisa says.
Yeah, that's right. I've always, again, been very inquisitive. Like my first Christmas there, I think they got me a Mr. Microphone. I interviewed everybody in the house. Like I've always been the person on the front lines.
I could just visualize you doing that. Like
totally.
Back to you, Lisa.
That's right. Absolutely. And they too were like, got their drink and Sid going, get out of the way. You're in front of Charlie's Angels. We want to see what Farrah's doing.
Yeah.
So that was the 70s.
I love it. I love it.
They adopted me. I went to the University of Arkansas and studied journalism because I was always, again, the high school editor of the newspaper, in college, editor of the yearbook, worked on political campaigns, worked in the press box for the Arkansas Razorbacks. I mean, you name it. I've always been in the middle of it. And so I came to Little Rock after that and came to the capital city, Little Rock, from Fayetteville, which is where the university is, about 2.5 hours away, 2:45, and started working in radio and TV and writing. So I write for people. And so when there were no jobs in radio and TV, somehow I weaseled my way in and I had a radio show at 23, and the average listener was a 42-year-old man. And I don't know. I can convince anybody.
You were like, I will talk to whoever.
Anybody, whoever. That's right.
I love that.
Isn't that
At
crazy?
23, you had your own show, and for sure there was a long line of more seasoned.
That's right. And so that lasted about 2 years because they said, you're really too young for this gig. But I still did. Then I worked in other radio stations, and I was on the morning show here in Little Rock. I got married the man of my dreams, healthy man, physically, spiritually, emotionally. Like, he is everything. Everything.
You nailed it. I love it. I love it. Well, you've been a journalist and TV personality for more than 38 years. But
That's
recently you've added, and I don't even know how recently, but integrative health coach to your resume.
That's right.
Why was that important for you to kind of, because it's a pivot a little bit in that way?
It's a little bit of a pivot, but anyone listening I have a high ACE score. Do you know what that is?
I don't know what that is.
Adverse childhood experiences.
Okay.
So these are things that happen before the age of 18.
Okay.
It goes from 0 to 10. Like, my children's are all zeros, I bet.
Okay.
Mine's some of the highest people have seen at 8.
I was just going to say, is yours 15? Like, what's yours?
Mine says, really. And so people with high ACE scores have earlier death, have more autoimmune disease, have more depression, have more obesity. So you see the things that set us up for that cortisol.
Well, because you've been living in fight or flight without realizing it all of your life, but you were a go-getter enough to say, and you were determined enough to say, I'm going to find a way through this, but your body is aging faster because you've been working internally harder because that cortisol hormone has been so high for so long. So you learned about this at what point?
I started noticing I didn't have trouble with pregnancy, which is often a barometer for health, endocrine health, and some other things. Did not have trouble with pregnancy, maintaining a pregnancy, had great pregnancies. But after that, things started falling apart. As you see, I have vitiligo. Vitiligo is on this umbrella of autoimmune conditions that often pop up for people with high ACE scores. I have Hashimoto's thyroiditis. I've had chronic hives. I have achalasia, no one's heard about, a rare swallowing disorder. I have pernicious anemia. You see, I have all those things.
All of these things also that you have mentioned are very rare or not mainstream, like all of the...
a few of my things, doctors will go, now what's that you have again?
Right.
Now, I've reversed all of them, but this one, I still have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, but I take a low dose. I'm fine. I'm not worried about it. But this one, vitiligo has been a booger to me because I'm like, how I've reversed everything else.
Yeah. How can I get that to go? So this started as your own personal experiment.
As most people do.
Yeah.
And so for years.
I love that. Yes. Most people do.
Right. The Arkansas Medical Association probably knew me as someone that practically hung out a shingle. I could diagnose people. God's given me an ability to diagnose people very quickly.
Yeah.
Albeit against the law.
Right. This is not medical advice. Absolutely.
I have to say that all the time now
because this is not medical advice.
Right. I'm like, oh, I know lawyers. So with that, after one of my kids, my youngest daughter is a professional model, and college wasn't a perfect fit for her because she's real artistic and all these things. She went to IIN first, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and she called and said, Mom, you ought to do this. She goes, you've been giving out she said, you've been giving out medical advice, albeit illegally, for 25 years.
Right.
But she said it would help you justify your interest in health and helping other people.
Heck yeah.
So what I like to do is just equip people, especially women, just because then, despite the fact that I had all these things happen in my childhood, I've been on a cortisol roller coaster all my life, then something called menopause hit. And
that nasty, nasty M word.
But you know what? I have mastered the M word and I feel great, but you have to work hard. You have to have a partner who helps you. You have to have, you have to be equipped to get through it.
Well, you have to understand that there are more tools available than what your OBGYN is going to say. It is available, and you do not have to just suck it up and
you don't
press it on. You have to learn. Yeah, you have to learn new tools. So I love that you have absorbed all of this, and now you're coaching other women to go through the same process and not have to hurt, right? Because
and stand up for themselves. Yeah. So the squeaky wheel gets the grease. So if you go to your doctor, anyone listening, and they say, "Hi, how are you?" and you say, "Fine," your doctor looks at your affect. He or she looks at your affect. That's, what is your face responding? Do you look in? Are you absorbing the information you're getting? Oh, not depressed. Patient says, "Fine." What are you in for? "Oh, just my yearly checkup." "No, ma'am." Yeah. You go in there and stomp your stiletto heel and say, I fart like a horse. That I sleep like I live under a bridge. You go in and tell all the things. Don't be delightful and go, "Fine."
Yeah, because you won't get what you're looking.
Life sucks.
You won't get what you're looking for, but
you won't get help.
Also, you have to look beyond that. I know I've had my own experience with my husband having cancer and asking questions and the doctor saying, "We don't know, we don't know, we don't know, we can't help you, we can't whatever," or giving just you a blanket statement. So like with your nutrition background and with all of the holistic interest, how you could, diagnose someone from across the room, these are your problems. That's intuition that a lot of people lack the intuition to say, "I don't know what my problem is. Here are my symptoms, the 7 things that are wrong. I don't know what to do." So if you go to your doctor and you don't get the information that you need, then what's your advice for what's your next step after that?
Keep looking, keep knocking. Please fight for yourself. Your spouse will thank you. Your children will thank you. You don't want to sit in a chair all day and just look outside. You want to seize the day, and you have to do it. You have to fight for your health. You have to get sunlight every morning in your eyes.
100%.
You have to get it. Yes, you have to get it as the sun sets. You have to lift weights. Women are in nursing homes in their 70s and beyond, often not because of cognitive decline, but because they don't have the thigh strength to get up and down out of a chair, or they can't climb stairs.
Yeah.
You have, osteopenia is one thing, that is bones, but then we also notice that our muscle, we start to lose muscle mass. And when that happens, you can fight it though. Everything I'm telling you is reversible.
Right. Everything. I think let's say that again, every single thing. I believe this with my whole heart, especially after watching my husband die and realize we got churned through the medical system. And had I had more tools, I don't think that would have happened, but I didn't have those, which is the point of this podcast and the point of friendships like yours. And the point of all of these things is learning the tools. So one of the byproducts of menopause and aging women is our muscle mass. And we have to fight hard to keep that on. And it's nutrition, it's walking, it's lifting weights, it's
protein. Yeah.
Yes.
I hate to tell you people, you can't be a vegan and you'll have a hard time being a vegan entering menopause because of the osteopenia is the bones, right? So the other penia, you don't want a bunch of penias. Yeah. It's another penia. And it's the one that has to do with muscle, but you lose it if you're not, they're telling women to get over 100 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
and it's hard, y'all. And I work out. I mean, I don't keep numbers and stuff. I just keep it in my
No,
head.
you have to just be aware. I definitely am not a numbers person. Like, I don't want to write anything down. I'm not going to keep a journal. I'm not going to do any of that. I like for any of the women that I coach,
I'm like getting me. Thank you.
We're not going to write things down, but we do have to be aware.
Yeah.
Cognizant of like what you're eating and what you're putting on your plate. And it's not all like emotional and and this is what I feel like eating. You have to eat with intention if you want the result of health and not all of the symptoms of menopause
and vitality. And so with that, it's hormone optimization.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the science comes out day after day after day after day that people with low cholesterol have a high risk of dementia. Women there are more women with dementia than men. Part of that is women live longer, but it's also the way that we have lost our estrogen. So estrogen's the big name for estradiol, estrone, the different estrogen. You know, you would have estradiol as a replacement. But there are no 20-year-olds with dementia. Why? They've got good estrogen.
Yeah. I think it's really fascinating, the link between estrogen and dementia. And
absolutely fascinating.
I don't know. It's
blown me away more than anything. And Dr. Mary Claire Haver, I interviewed her on my podcast recently, and she was just on Huberman's podcast this week. She continues. I mean, she is really hanging the banner high to tell women, you know, and they're even saying, so everybody, you're in your car right now going, I can't take it because I've had breast cancer, or my fifth cousin from my mother's side in Jersey had breast cancer. It doesn't matter. We now see that all that information from the Women's Health Institute initiative from 2002's all been walked back. It was erroneous reporting, often is. Often, you know, you have to see who sponsors studies, stuff like that. And that you have to look at the benefit and risk. And that's what Mary Claire Haver says.
Right. Which is amazing. And I love too, like, as long as we're talking about menopause, and you have done the estradiol, the HRT therapies, right? Yes. All of the things, and they've worked fabulously for you. And that's part of your mission for helping other women, right?
Yes. Yes.
And for me, I'm on a probiotic, prebiotic kind of holistic solution that's all part of like the gut brain axis and the gut hormone.
Very important.
Gut hormone support.
Yes.
And so I don't know where I am on this menopause scale other than saying, okay, I haven't had a period in a number of years. Like I'm somewhere.
Test, don't guess.
Yeah.
No, guess. Yeah. Test, don't guess.
Right.
Just go and have lab work or do the saliva test.
Yeah.
Find it. Then you know where you are.
But my broader point is that like, I kind of don't care because I don't have any symptoms other than like wanting to know a number on a scale. Like, where am I? I'm taking the holistic supplements and I'm not had hot flashes. Most of my friends have had hot flashes, like all of the things.
I've never had a hot flash.
Yeah. I sleep like a baby. I don't even know if a baby sleeps well, but I sleep well.
Yeah.
I sleep well. I have energy. I have all of the things and none of the downside.
Yeah.
So I am just fascinated more of the approach that it is not one size fits all.
It is not.
And that every single one of us, like this was kind of the point that I was getting at, like every single one of us has to empower ourselves to say, okay, Lisa, that worked for you. That was amazing. And you've really sold me on that plan, but I'm doing this other plan and I feel amazing. So we can all be friends and grow and learn, but know for ourselves that you're confident in the way that you feel. And you're confident when you go back to your point about going to the doctor and wearing your stilettos and stomping them around and saying, I have these issues, I need help. But having that confidence in yourself to say, if it's not working, find a different plan. And if it is working, tweak it until it's absolutely amazing, right?
I wanted to be Lisa 2.0. I wanted to be restored to factory settings without the monthly period.
Yeah.
And that's about where I am. Sarcopenia, by the way, for those of you playing along in our Jeopardy game, sarcopenia is the muscle loss one. The muscle loss penia.
I love it. We definitely don't want that, because we want to be able to have vitality, get out of your chair at 75, get out of your chair at 80.
Run up and down the stairs.
Run up and down the stairs, be able to keep up with grandkids, be able to keep up with all the things. I do know that one like super simple mobility exercise that we can all do is just sit Indian style on the floor and get up without your hands.
That's hard.
Right? But if you can tell yourself, all right, I'm just going to every week, I'm going to check, and you can see your decline years before it happens, the moment that you can't do that.
I've seen Gary Brecka, the PhD, recently say too that, no, it wasn't him. It was it was somebody in that same realm, Human Garage on Instagram, squatting on the floor, how it also helps with the sympathetic nervous system. It can lower your cortisol. Yeah. There are some other things. It's just good for your bowels and your hips to separate. Like the therapeutic, again, everything I'm telling you is the low cost of free. Yes. Sunlight doesn't cost you anything. Right.
Squatting doesn't cost you anything.
No, you don't need a membership to the gym. Right. You can walk outside and you can lift everything. You can get that gallon of milk and just lift the gallon of milk. Do anything. Move the water. When you get the 24 case of water, move it. Do things. Just move your body.
My dad has never stepped a day in the gym, but has, muscles and works, but he's in the yard every single day, moving bales of things and lawnmowers and all of the things. 82, 83. Wow.
Isn't that something that, your mother and father had to watch you bury your husband, and here they are in their 80s, or if your mother's still alive.
Yeah, my mother's still alive. She's high 70s. They're both, got vigor, living life.
People forget, though, your grief obviously is, we can't even measure it, but they also grieved.
Oh, yeah.
But they were there to support you.
Yeah. They grieved the loss of the life also that they thought that I was going to have.
Yes,
and they loved my husband and the life that we were going to have. And he was like a financial mentor to them. And, they lost with that. And speaking about like watching the grief, like what hurts my heart the most is my mother-in-law. Like, I think losing a child is the only harder thing than losing a spouse when you have little kids.
Brutal.
Just, I can't imagine. But yes, back to our conversation of like living, like balancing the cortisol, right? Like you and I became fast friends because we're nerdy people obsessed with the science. You're a little bit more extroverted than I am, but I'm on that extrovert scale.
But which is unusual because you're an engineer.
Right. I'm an anomaly for that.
You are.
I am the extroverted engineer that always was the one that gave the presentation.
Only one. Yes. The only one. Now, I will say my son's an ambivert, meaning he swings both ways. He's more extroverted than introverted, and he's an engineer. So he was the one that and he's a redhead. He got up front of the class and he gave all the
I was always giving every presentation I gave, everything. It was like your team of 5 people who's giving the presentation.
And they're like, duh, Dana.
Dana is. Dana's getting up to do it. And I was like, oh, heck yeah, I am. You don't want to do this? I want to get up and like tell everyone the way that it goes.
I love
it. So amazing. So I read on your website that you and your husband are empty nesters who now like watching objectionable material on Netflix and stay up late on Friday nights, like until 10:30.
I know. We are wild here because, when your kids are home, we never watched anything inappropriate. We try not to have any because we don't talk like that. But now it's hard to find.
Well, because you weren't like with the cigarettes and the things. You were like, this is not the way that life works.
Right. That's exactly right. And with that, except for you can find a few things. We're watching Suits now, but now they have bad language. Yeah. But it's hard to watch anything that doesn't have inappropriate language. But we're having the best time. We love to travel. So I've done the Enneagram test, and that's what I was kind of wondering.
I love it. Like, let's talk about another test. Like, this is why you and I are like, yes, where's the data? Give me more science. What are the facts? Yes. You did the Enneagram test, and what did you learn?
So the Enneagram test is based on 9 different personality types, and it's based on your fears more than anything. I hope I'm not overstating that, but it's not based on what you would do, but it's based on what you don't want to happen.
Yeah.
I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. I want to have fun. So my fear is not having fun.
Yeah.
And 8, my husband's an 8.
What's his
His
fear?
fear is not being in control.
Oh,
He's
I
high
need to take
control.
I need to take this test.
So I would be so interested in what you are. It's so fun. You could look for the free Enneagram test when you Google it. But all that to say, all the numbers, all 9 numbers, you could, not everybody has a wing, but the wing is only the number on the left or the right. So an 8 can only have a 7 or a 9. So my husband's wing is a 7. So he wants to have fun too.
Oh,
so
amazing.
So his high control. So I love it. Last night, I put the bug in his ear. I go, it's time to travel again.
Yeah.
And so one of our kids lives in Mexico City. The other one lives in LA. So I'm like,
here you go. Let's go.
I think we need to get in a caravan. Now we're not going to caravan to Mexico City because we want to live coming back across the border, but not a place to go by car.
No,
but
not a place to go by car.
Yeah. So all that to say, but I love the Enneagram because it helps me understand people too. And because I know them a lot.
Yeah.
You know, the world's divided into 2 types of people, those who love Lisa Fischer and those who can't stand her. So,
and you're like, I'm okay with that.
I am totally okay with it because I'm not going to change.
No, but that is also like, this is so amazing because you are not going to fake fine to put yourself in a box to make someone else happy. You're like, listen, if Lisa Fischer is not for you, that is amazing. There's 9 billion other people on this planet.
That's right.
Go find someone else. Yes.
Now you'll have a dull life, but knock yourself out.
Right. Knock yourself out. Oh my gosh. So when we talk about faking fine, I know a lot of women, I think, fake fine as an empty nester because they desperately miss their kids and you get lost, right? We can get lost in this place of not knowing who you are. So like, what advice do you have for that woman?
First work on your marriage.
Yeah.
While your kids are still there. Because when they leave, that's all you got left. Make sure that it is the yummiest morsel that you've got. You know, you look your best for him. He looks his best for you. My husband does 1,000 push-ups a day.
Love it.
It looks like, I mean, everywhere we travel, they ask what team he's on. I mean, he's got
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Like, he's playing canasta, you know, with the old folks. We're in our 60s now, early 60s, but we're in our 60s. So work on your marriage.
You're 60 and fabulous. And I mean, look at your closet. Let's turn around. You definitely have all of the clothes. You're ready to
I do.
You're ready to go. It's date night.
In a moment's notice. All you have to do is call me. I could pack my bag and be in Manhattan with the direct flight in the morning by 10 a.m.
I mean, side note, we're going to need to plan a trip. But helping, prioritizing you. I think the takeaway of that is prioritizing you.
Don't get lost in your kids, guys. You'll regret it. Because you know what? They need to. The Bible says they leave and cleave. They need to leave you and find their spouse. And start their forever family so that they're secure, so that your son's wife is secure and your daughter's husband, that she loves him well and he loves her well. So my kids are so secure. They have a really good dad. I'm a little loosey-goosey, I'll admit. I'm fun at weddings and bar mitzvahs, though. I was just going to say,
you're the most fun to bring. You're the most fun to bring.
Always.
Yes.
Invite me to all your parties.
Yes.
And my husband's the one, and this is another conversation, but we have contracts with our kids when they were in high school and in college. And if you violate the contract, well, that was easy. We could tear it up. There's no more money coming your way. Yeah. Let me know how that works for you. Yeah. So,
I like that. Like, let's go back to this contract. Like, what's the contract? That's like a really good nugget,
Lisa. The contracts are things that we go by what the law says. That means no drinking until you're 21.
Yeah.
And if you drink, well, it's the same thing if the law showed up. There's a violation for that. If I own the phone that you have, it's my phone. That means you have to keep your location device on at all times.
Yeah.
And if you ever turn it off, you just violated the contract.
Yeah.
And then the money pit is gone. You don't get anything you're on your own.
Which is fine if you want to be on your own.
If that's what you want to do.
You go live your best life. But if
Absolutely.
I love that. We do not have contracts, but I subscribe to the newsletter that you are preaching about. Yes.
Yeah.
Like verbal contracts. I guess we have verbal contracts, but I feel like I like the paper experience.
No, my husband had it written down. You signed the contract. So if there was a violation, it was just done in a very pleasant way saying the contract's been violated and it's over.
Yeah.
So we've been known to pick up a child at college saying, pack your bags, we're done.
Yeah.
And that child is the one who just texted me 2 weeks ago and said, thank you for rescuing me. Thank you for believing in me. I was in rebellion. I'm sorry. She's 26. It took a minute, but we waited for her to she was just folly. I mean, it's the same folly I participated in. It's just, I didn't have anyone love me enough to say hard things and to do hard things to me. I was given my way.
That is the best nugget though. Loving someone enough to do the hard thing, because as parents, it's definitely easier to brush it under the rug or
absolutely
turn a blind eye, pretend like it's not happening, leave your house while it's all of the things. It is much easier to do nothing, which brings me back to this podcast. And even after my husband died, it was much easier for me to just do nothing than it was to do the work to grow through that.
It is hard work.
Do the work to get there. So Lisa, this conversation has been amazing. I could talk to you for probably 7 hours.
I know.
We can hear you on 2 podcasts, right?
Yes. One is with my gay husband, my gusband, Larry West Jr. It's called The Lisa and Larry Show. And y'all, it's just frivolous. We talk about restaurants we've been to in Little Rock or fabrics he's found. He's a designer in Little Rock, and he's really our family's best friend. Like he's family to us. Yeah. My husband loves him because they love cars together. They have a lot in common, but one thing. It's the mates.
But one thing. I love it. And I love that your husband is like very good friends with him, and you're very good friends with him. And he's like the little third wheel to your party. Yes.
And so that's a frivolous one. And then I have one where I have to be a grown up. It's called the Lisa Fischer Said podcast, because why did you do something? Because Lisa Fischer said, So it's from years of being on the radio. Yes, being on the radio, being on TV, people, I'm their Oprah. I mean, they've watched me grow up. I've interviewed everybody, and that they'll still come up to me and say, someone stopped me the other day. I've watched you grow up. You're on TV, and I'm in 60s, y'all. I've been on TV since I was in my 20s. And that one does health things. And that's why you're on that podcast of mine, because I love the Stop Faking Fine. Oh,
I love it. I love it. I love everything about this conversation. Thank you so much for being here with me today. And
my absolute pleasure.
Where else can we find you? So I will drop all the details in the show notes, but where can we find you?
So I'm on Instagram as at Lisa Fischer Said, and I have a website, lisafischersaid.com. And I do have a course for people, because the other thing I want to equip women to do is to lose that menopause weight. Intermittent fasting changed my life 7.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't worry about my weight. My weight is the number on the scale is the number on the scale. It doesn't matter. I lift 4 days a week. I get sunlight every day. I eat well. I eat pretty much a meat-based diet. But I have an occasional chocolate, whatever. I'm human. Yeah. But I do have a course where people could take. That's why I think you and I need to do a course, because I think cortisol regulation is really for women, especially over 45, because the way ovarian decline comes in, then we start making too much cortisol when we should have been making female hormones. And so that's why,
because your estrogen drops and all of the things,
right.
and
that's right. I want to partner with you on that. So
we are going to 100%.
That's in the future.
We are going to 100% do that. But for today, we will follow you. I will drop your podcast in the show notes, and I just thank you for being on this episode. And it's been great to chat with you.
I can't wait till we go to New York together. We're going to have so much fun.
So
Larry,
much fun.
My gay husband and I go together. We travel together. So we stay in a fabulous apartment on the Upper East Side. These millionaires let us stay there. So I love faking rich.
Let's go. Okay. I cannot wait to meet you there.
Okay. Thanks, girl.
Thanks.